Hello, Philadelphia! I'm Bruce Buffer. It's time for the Anthony Gorgano Show!
Good morning! Happy Monday to all across the Delaware Valley. Well, I hope you had a great weekend and a happy Monday. It is camp week. Oh, I love it. Football. Get them. I can't wait. Rookies and vets report Tuesday, tomorrow. First practice Wednesday. I mean, this is it. Camp 2024 is upon us. The birds get ready to go. And we got lots to do to commemorate that. We'll get to the Phillies. The whole thing. I hope you get it. Had a great weekend. We are brought to you by TrueMark Financial Credit Union. Check out the credit union difference today. TrueMark.com/PHLY. All right. When last we left you, Diana Rossini from The Athletic had a very interesting take on the birds. And I kind of want to get into this as we go into training camp because we have the Monday Five for you. It's a lot of it's going to be training camp related. And Diana Rossini writes, talking about the 10-1 start last year for the Birds. Those 10 wins were a grind. The Eagles were winning, but things weren't exactly perfect behind the scenes and from a culture standpoint. One issue, Nick Sirianni is a conservative play caller, and that never goes over great with a franchise quarterback. Brian Johnson, the last year's offense coordinator, had a great relationship with Hurts, which is part of the reason why he was promoted before the season. But according to a few people in Philadelphia, while Johnson was the OC, it was 100% Sirianni's offense you were watching last season. And Sirianni wanted to do it his way. That meant a conservative run-first approach, especially when they got into the red zone. And I thought this was just completely fascinating, right? She goes, in the end, I believe they kept Sirianni for 2024 because they felt that Nick could still do this. Roseman believes this is a championship roster. What that means, if Sirianni doesn't take them to the next level in 2024, the leash isn't that long. So she basically details the relationship between Nick and Jaylen, which has been in the consciousness, right? Like, we're kind of spring. We've kind of talked about this, and Hurts saying that 90% of the offense is new, and all this other stuff about the way the offense is kind of he's looking at it, and Nick's like, well, that's not really it. So I think it's going to be interesting about those two and whether or not those two can get on the same page. I mean, obviously, Kellen Moore has his spin, and it's going to be a big deal with him as the OC. But it's going to be really about Sirianni overseeing it, Kellen Moore as the kind of who's going to drive the ship, and Jaylen who's going to execute it all. Those three have to become as one. I mean, clearly that was not the issue. So Diana Rossini writes, a conservative run-first approach when they got into the red zone, and last year opposing defenses were ready for it. Johnson wasn't calling plays. He was solely focused on giving Sirianni the offense that Sirianni wanted to run. And this is all just completely fascinating as to, what is the offense, right? What's the Kellen Moore piece of it add? What are the new wrinkles? So last year, according to Diana Rossini, we saw an offense that was run first and teams saw it coming. Well, we kind of knew that. The issue with the offense last year, I thought, in the run game, Jaylen wasn't a part of it. I understand the natural inclination to protect your starting quarterback, especially in the run game. He's so effective in it. You don't have the same execution without him in it. You just are that much easier to defend. The other issue is if we're to believe that Hurts wants to go down the field more, he also needs to have better mechanics. Like his mechanics suffered, particularly the second half of the year. Now, this whole thing is fascinating to me because we saw Hurts in the Super Bowl have one of the greatest games a quarterback can have. We've seen him at times look incredible as a thrower. He throws that are bucket throws, those drop in the bucket down the field. He seems to have a really good knack of throwing the ball down the field. And last year, it kind of went sideways on him. So I'm curious. To me, as we start camp, the whole question is going to be, what does this offense look like? How comfortable is Hurts in it? And can he get back to what he was 2 years ago? That, to me, is the biggest question that surrounds the Eagles right now in camp. Can they fix Hurts and the offense? No Jason Kelce, right? So the offensive line is still really good, but you got the veteran is not going to be a part of it, right? The mainstay who's been there for so long, who had so much trust, so much responsibility. He's not there. And that's going to be a big deal. You have a great running back in Saquon Barkley, who was multifaceted. We remember last year that they didn't throw the ball to DeAndre Swift enough out of the backfield. We all thought that was going to be a part of it, and it wasn't. You got two dynamic receivers in A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Your third receiver is Dallas Goedert. Your fourth receiver should be Saquon Barkley. I get the notion that, you need to upgrade slot a little bit. I get it. But they have plenty of weapons. It's going to be up to Nick and Kellen Moore to get this offense to where it needs to be. With those kinds of weapons, that offense can't struggle. I love what the Eagles did defensively in the back end. They addressed some needs. They're still going to be young, so there's still going to be some growing pains in the back end. We'll see if they can get enough pass rush, because that's another area where you go, But overall, I feel fine about the defense. You have a veteran coordinator. You have a defense that should be able to compete. I don't know. They're going to be back to 2 years ago when they were, set the franchise record in sacks, but they should be better, especially in the back end with those young players who are all terrific. I think they're going to be much better in the back end. Ultimately, they're only going to win because of their offense. So that's where everything lies. I'm fascinated by it as we start training camp 2024. We'll get to the Phillies, which it's a shame, man. For Alvarado Friday night, you lose Saturday. You come back yesterday. Tyler Phillips was terrific. You salvaged the win. You're in Minnesota. Ranger first started the second half. Curious to see how he looks. JT ready to come back. That's a good sign. Trade deadline looming. We'll talk about that as well. Good morning. JP Johnson, Bats Up, VG, Violations, Greg. What do you say, fellas?
How we doing?
27 blue. 27. Hey, y'all. Let's go.
I'm excited too, guys.
I love it. I love it. I love it, man.
I know you do.
It's my favorite thing, man.
Ah, man, you look like you're all high on some recreational drugs, and you're not. It's just some caffeine and training camp on the horizon.
Yeah. And look, I get people go training camp, whoa, whatever. It's a milepost.
Yeah.
When it comes that the season's around the corner.
It's like when like with baseball, right? When you start seeing the truck getting loaded up for pitchers and catchers, this is the same thing. Yeah. Getting excited for seeing grown ass men in the Andrew Frazier short shorts and the bubble helmets. Like, I'm excited for all of this.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast. Now, I thought VG, you read the Diana Rossini piece first, and I think that's interesting because the whole, let's face it, everything is all going to be about this offense.
Yes.
Like, if you have a chance, like, I had a debate Saturday. I do a weekly show for Fox, and I had a debate about the Cowboys. I work with a guy named Jason Fitz, used to be on ESPN. Mm-hmm. Jason we were debating pretty fiercely about Eagles versus Cowboys. And he's like, well, I don't see what the Eagles did beyond Barkley that says that they're going to overtake the Cowboys. And I'm going, I don't even see it. I look at the Cowboys. They go,
what have they done?
Right.
They're a little mess.
They had a worse. They're all
going
season,
backwards.
right? Like you're signing. You might as well sign Emmitt Smith instead of Zeke Elliott, right?
Right.
Like, come on. Your second receiver is Tolbert, right? Like, what do we do? Brandon Cooks, but then Tolbert as your third receiver. I mean, Brandon Cooks is getting up there. I don't know.
Your best players need contracts. Like that's a mess.
Do both of them,
Yeah.
CD and Dak. Like, so I don't know, but they were. It's interesting. The opinion outside of Philadelphia. Now I'll go, well, maybe I'm too close to it.
Right.
I always try to look at it like, let me take myself out of and look at it from 50,000 feet. I don't know. I still think this Eagles team should win, but this offense is everything, right? Like they're an offensive team. All their money's on that side of the ball. They have to be dominant, getting back to dominance offensively.
And that's the question, This it wouldn't be a training camp without drama. This team, I mean, I love my reality drama shows. By the way, Love is Blind. Not Love is Blind. Love Island finale was phenomenal last night. But we got drama rolling into this where it was like, oh, Brian Johnson was the issue. He's gone. And Diana Rossini's like, not so fast. Maybe it wasn't all Brian Johnson last year. Maybe this was Nick's fingerprints all over this offense being horrible last year. So it wouldn't be an Eagles training camp without that kind of little drama. I love it.
And it already started. Listen, it already started. I mean, early in spring when Hurts is given a chance to kind of endorse Sirianni. He doesn't really do it. I look at last year, and one of the big difference, I get Sirianni likes to run it. Mm-hmm. Like he's a run first, conservative play caller who likes to run establish. Right.
Yeah, I'm usually good with that.
Yeah, I mean that's something something that we all would fight about. Like, well, you don't run it enough, you don't establish it. And 2 years ago, when they were going to the Super Bowl, as great as the receivers were, everything came off the run game.
Yes.
Like you're able to go over the top and set everything up down the field for big strikes. But the run game never really got started last year. And I think the biggest part, beyond DeAndre Swift not being the primary back, like that number one back, it's taking Hurts out of it. When you take Hurts out of the run game, it's just not that effective.
I mean, think about it. They were so dominant on the run in 2022 that the back seven opposing defenses had to respect both the pass and the run for the Birds. And so that you have to still implement pieces of that. But I'm super intrigued by this article because, look, last year in 2022 were complete opposites, right? And the big thing is the culture. The culture in 2023 was obviously not there. And we saw it as we lost in Tampa Bay in the playoffs, how the culture really kind of imploded on us. And so going into this upcoming season, that's going to be one of the things that I'm really going to be looking forward to is how is this culture kind of reshaped itself?
And the culture is Nick's leadership. In the article, I mean, we all knew how he picked the offensive coordinator, defense coordinator, but I mean, Rossini goes in to say that that's not really the norm in the league. And when you look around, head coaches usually have some flexibility about who their coordinators are.
Of course they do. So, like just to give you a little insight, because I know a lot of them.
Yeah.
Like when they feel like they're hot and they have a good chance for a job, one of the things you have to do is when you go into an interview, you go in like, this is going to be my staff. Here's my OC. Here's my DC. This is my philosophies. Like when you go in for an interview, that's kind of where you're at. And then when a guy leaves, it's usually on you. I think after the fiasco would happen with Doug, when Doug lost his coordinators and didn't really have that Rolodex to come in with an answer, I think Howie's like, listen, I'm taking this over.
How does that play in the locker room with these men looking to you as the leader when you kind of been snipped of your power, and they all know Howie's walking around throwing his junk on the table? How does that play with the locker room?
From everyone I talk to, they like Sirianni. Like they like him. They appreciate it. They won a lot of games with him in a short period of time. So I don't know how
well, liking someone doesn't mean
but they want to
they're a good leader.
But they have that confidence in the fact that they won.
Skeeves here. Am I going to follow Skeeves in the battle? I don't know. Is he going to lead me in the battle?
Not with those socks.
Right. But I like him.
No, but I'm curious in the effect. I think, look, players ultimately, if you win, they'll believe in you and they'll follow you. You have to win. Now, they've won up until the last year's slide at the end of the year. Now, that's to me, can they rebuild this offense to be able to start that belief process again?
Well, you bring up the fact that are these players playing for him? And I can't help but think back to 2021 where, we were all making fun of the whole Roots, analogy that he was making. The whole media, all fan base was making fun of him. And they ripped off, 8 straight wins? And the whole locker room seemed to get behind him. And so, yeah, Nick Sirianni, we may not like his antics. We may not like what happened last year. But for some reason, this locker room, this team still fights for him.
You're living in the past, man. That's 3 years ago. That's eternity in the NFL. A lot has happened.
But
yeah, including they went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and an epic collapse.
Okay, right.
When
we're all the collapse. We're all the collapse. I understand the need for Sirianni to prove himself again.
Yes.
I think that's obvious. I think, listen, when you're 10-1 and then you have that kind of a dramatic slide, you got to prove to your locker room that you can lead them to win. I'm completely on board with that. And I don't think that's an issue. I just think they need to get a scheme. Everything's got to be on the same page. They obviously weren't last year, according to Diana Rossini and everybody else. Zach Berman will tell you that stuff. Yeah. So everybody talked about it. They're 10-1, but are they a paper tiger? It unraveled, though, in a more disturbing way. Suddenly it's you're going to lose games. They suddenly couldn't move the ball. That was the distressing thing.
So let me ask you, they had Hurts not running the ball last year. Kellen Moore comes in here. Mm-hmm. Herbert's kind of been an underachiever. He underachieved under Kellen Moore.
1 year.
Okay. But has Kellen Moore ever done an offense where the quarterback was involved in the running game? Has he had success doing this? Can he do it?
Dak wasn't that kind of quarterback.
Right.
So he wasn't that kind of quarterback. Right. And Herbert's not that kind of quarterback.
Right. So can he do that here?
But do we need him to do that, though?
Yes.
Do we need him to run more?
Yes.
I think you do.
Jalen Hurts?
Yes.
Yes.
I think so, I think, listen, I think he's effective in it.
Yes.
I think you have to be able to do that. I think if you look at the offense 2 years ago, now again, defenses always adjust. We saw it here with Chip Kelly. Defenses are going to adjust. DCs got tape on you. The minute there's tape on you, you go, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to force Jaylen to the weak side, right? And then I'm going to mush them, and I'm going to attack them that way, right? That's kind of how it goes. Now you need another wrinkle, right? It's always tit for tat. And can you get that next wrinkle that will set you apart? That always keeps the defense chased. Great offenses, A, you need great players, and B, you need to always be evolving.
That's a good point.
I agree. Yeah, I don't know if Kellen doesn't have the track record of doing it.
Just because you don't have the quarterback to do that doesn't mean you can't do it. I mean, sure. Any coordinator, it's all about style, right? You build your offense around the personnel that you have. So
he's a smart guy too.
Listen, it's not that complicated.
I just don't get the Kellen Moore love. I mean, man, 2 years ago he's a Cowboy guy, a Charger guy. He's a guy. But now suddenly he's our guy, and it's Kellen Moore.
Brian Johnson. That's all we're hopeful for.
You get that because this is what it. If you're an Eagles fan, it's we're about to start training camp. Of course, you're going to lean more to the optimistic. Everybody's optimistic beforehand. Here's what I like about Kellen Moore. He's done it. He's called plays. Mm-hmm. That's actually a big deal. That you have called plays. You feel comfortable in your shoes to call plays, and I think that's an upgrade. Now, was Brian Johnson trying to appease Nick by calling plays that would suit the offense that Nick saw in his head? Mm-hmm. I'm sure that was definitely a part of it. You're always trying to appease your boss, right? So I think that was definitely a part of it. But you still need to be able to figure out what to call in the right time. That's effective. And we saw them against Seattle, against the Giants. All of a sudden, and it wasn't like that for the first, 10-1. Mm-hmm. They might not have been as great as we had hoped them to be, but we didn't see periods where that offense looked dysfunctional. And during that slide, the offense looked anemic. Yeah. And it was a complete 180.
I listen. I understand all.
I mean, they still beat Miami. They beat Buffalo, Dallas. I mean, they had a string of wins that were impressive.
And until it all collapsed. But listen, Kellen Moore is an extremely smart man. I do like that he brings a different wrinkle to the offense as well. We talked about the motioning, how that's going to implement something different for this Eagles offense. But just
that's kind of one-on-one, though.
I'm just saying.
I mean, like what motion? Motion's kind of one-on-one.
Well, I mean, we really weren't doing that the past couple years.
I mean, look, the guy did it, right? So that's great that the guy did it. That's what makes me feel okay. I feel like that's an improvement. But I mean, to VG's point, I hope you have a lot more in your arsenal other than you did it.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about the fact that you want this offense to look different, right? And I think that Kellen Moore can make this offense look different. And just because, listen, he's had quarterbacks like Dak Prescott. He's had quarterbacks like Justin Herbert. And we'll see how he does here with Jaylen Hurts. But honestly, guys, the offense isn't even my main concern. I'm more concerned about this defense, but I understand why people are concerned about this offense. I think they'll get back to 2022.
I'm completely on the side.
Yeah, I feel like defense is going to be the defense. This offense got to outscore people. Yeah. That's the way they're going to win. But you say Kellen Moore's smart. I don't know. To me, he's a guy. We're trying to get back to functional. We're trying to get a functional offense that runs some motion and recognizes a blitz. He's not a sharp guy. This is where we are with the offense right now. We used to want guys that were like gold standards, innovative, sharp, smart. Kellen Moore's not that to me. He's a guy. He was okay at the Cowboys. He's okay at the Chargers. I don't know. I'm so underwhelmed by Kellen Moore and the love that's out there for him. I don't understand it.
Who did you want for those?
Nobody worth anything is going to come in here with this situation. That was the problem.
Really?
I don't. Who's going to come in here and be
situations that bad where you got a really good offensive line, you have two great weapons.
Yeah, what young up and coming sharp guy is going to come here and be like Nick's lackey or whatever? I don't see it, man.
I don't think it's the lackey situation, but again, I get that Sirianni's an offensive coach. But I never got it like it's a lackey piece.
Kellen Moore's here again. I mean, he's not the cream of the crop, Kellen Moore. I mean,
I think he's a guy that's done it, right? So I'm
mediocrely.
I don't know. Dallas had decent offenses. Like I'm kind of in between you two. JP, defense, no. Like we were all about defense. This offense, the only way that they're going to win anything is if this offense is clicking.
They were just gashed last year, especially in the losing streak.
All their money, all the resources are on offense. Your offense needs to dictate, right? And then if you're scoring, then you can unleash your pass rush. If you think that they're going to win on the backs of their defense, you better think again.
No.
They have no chance. They got to get this offense in order.
I'm just not as concerned with the offense that I am with the defense because of the way they were gashed last year. And you still have a lot of the pieces from the Super Bowl year are still back in 2024. The big question is the leadership on top. Nick Sirianni you better
be way more concerned with the offense because that's where the offense, again, the offense needs to look dramatically different than it did during that slide. No, otherwise, it doesn't matter your defense. It's irrelevant because you're not going to win. You have to fix this offense. It's the number one thing this training camp. This offense has to work.
Hopefully these hard practices do something for them.
All right, tell us about Rite Aid.
All right, guys. Let's talk real quick about our Rite Aid here because, listen, we're all a little thirsty. After talking some training camp, we're all excited here. So, guys, our spot for everything we need to quench our thirst is with Rite Aid, guys. Everything from water, from all the different types of waters, purified spring, with all the electrolyte distilled and alkaline water. They even have flavored waters. If you're not a fan of the flavor of regular water, well, they got some flavors there for you. You can get all your coconut water, guys. Single serve iced teas for VG. We also have juices and lemonades. Their juices they are sweetened with real sugar and they have no preservatives. They have also all the juices that you can need as well, from cranberry, pineapple, apple, strawberry, lemonade. If you're someone who, if you're not a fan of the alcohol, that's perfect. Juice is perfect for you. Or if you want a little mixer for your tequila or your gin or your vodka, Rite Aid has it there for you as well. And of course, if you're trying to stay fit, we're still in summer, trying to cut back on those LBs. They have cold pressed juices, guys. Awesome stuff, crafted from 100% fruit and vegetables, They are organic with non-GMOs, and they have no added sugars, preservatives, or artificial flavors, and they're packaged in eco-friendly glass bottles, which reduces waste, which is awesome, guys. It is important to stay hydrated, especially during these summer months, and guys, they are hot this year. Get refreshment delivered as well, so you don't have to go to Rite Aid. Rite Aid can deliver right to your front step. Head on over to riteaid.com/shop for same-day delivery, or you can just buy online. Pick up in a store for anything that you need as far as quenching that thirst, I should say. So, guys, this summer right now, anything you need to quench that thirst, keep in mind our friends over at Rite Aid.
All right, buddy. Primos, look, it's perfect summertime, right? You're looking for, you don't want to cook. It's hot, the whole thing. What better than a Primo Hoagie with the greatest treats? We're talking about camp. It's the best tailgate food. It's the best fun food. You want to talk about watching a game? There's nothing better than you're having a viewing party of any game. Could be Fightins. It could be the Birds. And then you walk in with a sack of Primos. Everybody lights up. They freak out. They go, oh, this is the greatest thing in the world. There's something for everyone on the Primos. It's that, of course, seeded roll, baked fresh in store every couple hours, and the Thuman meats and cheeses and all that fresh ingredients piled high. It's the best. We do it at my family. They love it. My auntie likes the meatball sandwich. My Maswa likes the Genoa salami. I like my wife likes the veggie or the tuna. I like the Old World and the Diablos. They're just incredible. Go to PrimoHoagies.com and check it out. There's over 90 locations, and the taste is just like the original. Right there on Rittner Street in South Philadelphia. It's really the taste of Philadelphia. Whether you call it a hoagie, grind, or sub, one thing's for sure, you can taste the Primo difference. Make your next event Primo with hoagie trays and party platters, perfect for any occasion. Go to PrimoHoagies.com, and you'll say what I always say. It's not just a hoagie. It's a Primo. All right, boys. I got one for you.
People are excited. They're not excited, but they say we sound a lot better this week. We were all sounding sick, they said, and congested last week. They said we all sound better this week.
Probably we were, guys.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling 100% last week for sure.
My allergies every day is like I can't tell you. I don't know what to do.
I can't believe your allergies are still raging like this.
Raging every day.
Every day.
I mean, I had the worst weekend. You can't sleep. I sneeze in my eyes. Again, I want to take a fork and scratch my eyeballs.
Change up your laundry detergent or something. Maybe there's something going on.
I don't think it's that. When I go outside, I just flare up. It's all that humidity and I don't know, it's mold or whatever it is.
Yeah. We need to send the cuz back to Italy for a little bit.
Yeah, I know. Maybe for good. All right, Phillies over the weekend, and then we'll get to the Monday Five. So, Fightins Friday night, Alvarado. Listen, it's going to happen. But the one thing that we think about, because all the talk's been about the bat, right? Which bat are they going to get? Which outfielder? Which center fielder? Who are they going to get to platoon with Marsh? You still need that other arm.
Yeah, I kind of do, right? After this weekend?
At least an arm.
I know. I said that to you last night. You go, I need two relievers.
Yeah, thinking about the whole Kimbrel situation last year. It's like, I want to load up this bullpen. I just want arms and arms coming out of the bullpen.
Because one of the issues with Alvarado is, and we saw this against Houston. Listen, I love Alvarado. But the more you expose him in a series, we saw that with the Astros series in the World Series 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Right? The more you expose him, the more you get a look at it. There's a cap to it, how many times you can use him in a series.
Mm-hmm. And I think you got to keep an eye on, if you're not watching the tickers out there, the Dodgers are active. They've already made an offer for Crochet. They're talking to the Tigers about Scooble. I mean, the Dodgers are getting ready to make a massive move. So the Phillies got to load up.
It doesn't help as Phillies fans, too. We just saw Mason Miller first that weekend series and then at the All-Star break. So now we're all giddy on Mason Miller. No, we're not. But in general, the arm is definitely something we need to get in that bottom or that back end of the bullpen.
Yeah. Tanner Scott seems like the arm, the Marlins guy. I'm great with that. But Crochet ends up with the Dodgers. It's just it's insanity if they end up with that guy.
Well, I don't understand about why the White Sox would want to trade a young pitcher who's got great stuff.
That's why they're the White Sox, cuz.
Yeah, unless there's just a package that they're getting that's overwhelming to them. I don't know. How do the Dodgers have all these prospects still?
That's what they do, man. They just, obviously, they spend on players, but they constantly are just building a great farm system.
I saw the Robert thing again.
Oh, man.
And that's come up. And that
it won't go
it's
away.
Pretty serious. Listen, he's a terrific ball player, but what are you going to give up to get him is the question. Now, I saw a proposed package. It did not include the Phillies' top 4 prospects.
All right, I'm in then.
Yeah.
Well, Allergy, the Italian kid staying?
He wasn't in it either.
All right.
And what I saw.
All right.
He wasn't in it either.
We still got to see him, cuz.
Rojas was in it.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
And then all the prospects.
Yeah.
Which, of course, we're all good for that.
How about Rojas
But is that going to get it done? Obviously, the White Sox still are holding out.
Yeah. For what? I guess deadline. They're waiting for a bidding war.
Yes.
Jeez Louise.
You said it, JP, before the show. The Braves signed Whit Merrifield.
Well, they're going to be active too.
If Whit wakes up, I'm going to be upset.
He is. He is.
He was horrible. And I was excited by him. Honestly, I thought that was a terrific signing.
Yeah.
Right-handed bat. He's jack of all trades.
Professional
can do a million
hitter.
things. Right. And he was awful.
He's the rat, cuz. He's the rat. Or as we say in Colombia, el sapo.
What is it? El Sapo?
Sapo. Frog. Sapo.
They're getting really beat up down there. Freed is on the IL now too, right?
Yes.
Ozzy Albies.
I mean, they're going to be super active at the deadline.
Dude.
But they're not even that good. Like their lineup isn't that good anymore.
No.
Cuz, but they're just so
I mean,
pesky, man.
It wasn't. Now Witt's there, and who knows who they're grabbing.
Yeah, he's about to start waking up.
But they have a lot of those guys, right? Laureano, the guy from the A's. They have Eddie Rosario, right? Like they got these dudes. Kellen, the guy from Seattle. He's like their leadoff hitter now.
Yeah.
I mean, they've overhauled their lineup.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about the Dodgers.
Yeah,
like the Dodgers are the team that I worry.
You worry about the Buccos? Seeing them in the first round?
Nah, they have no offense. I don't know. It took 2 or 3, but their offense isn't good.
No.
And
they may be buyers for the first time in like 2 decades.
I think next year, and Brad always talks about this, next year, they're going to be good.
I agree.
Right? They get the kid Jones, who's another good pitcher. They shut him down for the year. He's good. But, I'm not worried about them this year.
I know we didn't win the series, but I would have loved to see the Skeens pitch against us. He's just become such a baseball story. Like, it doesn't matter who you're a fan of. Like, you have to enjoy watching Paul Skeens out there in the mountain.
Yeah,
for sure. It
would have been nice to see.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, they're struggling. They're just coming off the All-Star hangover, right? They got 8 guys at the All-Star game.
Actually, the only thing I'm really interested in, they go to Minnesota. Minnesota is a plucky team. Don't get freaked if they lose 2 or 3 to Minnesota. Team. But I'm curious to see what Ranger looks like tonight.
I was going to say, that could bug us out with Ranger and Wheeler going and we lose 2 or 3. If they look a little shaky.
My only point is it's on the road. Minnesota's plucky. They got some decent bats.
Yeah.
Right?
Then you got Cleveland, too.
So just don't get freaked. I'm just curious to see how Ranger looks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep up the clip that they've been playing at, right? Like they're playing at a historic clip.
Yeah.
So you're going to see, you saw it right before the All-Star break, you lose 2 or 3 to Oakland. You come back and lose 2 or 3 to Pittsburgh. That kind of funk is it's inevitable during a long season.
Hard to believe the Mets are back in the playoff picture. They
were just like, all because of
Grimace.
I know.
It's the Grimace.
You kidding me?
They might switch him from Mr. Met.
Grimace should listen.
He should be the
Grimace
mascot.
is way cooler than Mr.
Yeah, 100%.
Mr. Met's terrible.
Yeah.
They changed the colors to blue and purple.
Yeah, Grimace is way better. Way better.
Purple Grimace City Connect jerseys would be sweet.
You know what? It's not a bad idea.
All right, I got for you, and then we'll probably continue because we have the brain coming up. This portion of the program brought to you by the Bet Park Sportsbook and Casino app. But I have for you the Monday 5, and it's very training camp related. So let's start it off. You can play at home, and we want your comments. First of all, as we sit right here on the precipice of camp 2024, how many wins? What do you got, JP?
How many wins this season?
Yes.
You said? I'm still going to go with 12 wins for the season.
All right, 12. Skeeves, how many wins?
Wins, Eagles. Let's go with. I'm going to go 12.
You're going to go 12. VG.
11.
11. 11 seems to me like a pretty good number.
Yeah.
12
Win the division.
could be industrious, but I still think they win a division. I had this debate on Saturday. I was stunned with the Cowboy love. I'm going, I don't get it.
There's always going to be Cowboy love, cuz.
No, but I mean, you're talking about, doing it with I respect Jason. I do the show with Jason Fitz, and he's a good football guy. we're
talking about culture here. They can't like the culture down there.
I hear you. Give me 3 reasons why the Eagles will win the division.
Okay.
JP.
The rest of the division is terrible. They have the Eagles have more talent than anyone else on the division. That's number 2. And I like the schedule, especially if you look at the last 5 weeks. Those are easily winnable games, and that's probably where you're looking at the final stretch for the division. So those are my 3 reasonings.
All right, Skeeves.
Yeah, I think everything that JP just said, the division should be an easy one. The Cowboys didn't make moves. We don't know what the Commanders are going to be. Giants stink, And
Thank you, Hard Knocks.
And it's also just the, Cowboys won the division last year. They never repeat, so it's got to be the Eagles' turn, right?
The every other year.
The every other year, exactly.
VG.
Yeah, 3 reasons. Cowboys, Commanders, Giants.
Nah. See, I thought you guys were going to go, Saquon, I still think the pieces on this offense should be better. You've improved the secondary. That's one thing. I do believe you addressed it. Now, again, they have to grow into it. It's a young secondary. But I like how it looks. All of a sudden,
like the corners.
I think there's some players there.
Yeah, safeties, I'm still a little. I think Reed Blankenship, does he still start here? If so, yeesh. But the corners, yeah.
And that was
huge
a big
upgrade.
problem last year. Big problem. Give me your 3 biggest question marks. JP.
3 biggest question marks this season. Well, we talked about some of them. Number 1 is the coordinators for me, how they will fit. And obviously that was a big, that's what we heard, right? That was the biggest reason for the collapse was those coordinators were not on sync with the team. Number 2 is just Jaylen, not only his leadership, but his play on the field. We talked about it constantly. He needs to have a bounce back year this year. And number 3, the leadership. That is included Jaylen, but also the coordinators. And a big one we just talked about, Nick Sirianni. A lot of question marks for him. So those are my 3 biggest question marks for the Birds this season.
Skeeves.
My 3 question marks is definitely number 1, Jaylen Hurts. What is he going to bring to the table this year? Are we going to see him that 2022 season, or are we going to see him kind of seeing ghosts like last year? This defense, we got a lot of rookies playing on it. We got a lot of guys who haven't had NFL snaps, so I want to see what they're going to be able to bring to the table as well. And then I want to see what this offense is going to look like as a whole, what Kellen Moore is going to bring to this team. I know there's going to be a lot more pre-snap motion. There's going to be a lot of plays that we haven't seen yet. Are they going to be able to implement that run game with Jaylen? Are they going to be able to, show us that we don't need a good defense and that our offense can be our defense?
VJ?
Kellen Moore, I'm a big question mark on. The linebackers, I feel like they were exploited a good bit, and they didn't do a good enough job addressing that. And there's some good running backs in this NFC they're going to have to face in the playoffs. And I'm really curious. I'm not even trying to be funny about the tush push. The effectiveness without Kelsey. I want to know how important he was to that. Was he the pivotal factor in that? How did they do it without him? Because it's such an effective play for them.
Yeah, well, anytime you get a lock that you're 4th and 1, 4th and 2, and you're getting it, and that's it. That is a big deal. Give me the jersey that you will wear this season.
I just purchased it, and I think it was very fitting to talk about this. I just got a BG Kelly Green jersey. It's going to be the one to wear this year.
That's a classic.
Yeah.
Instant classic.
Need a Kelly Green, and obviously...
BG was at Knights of Venice in Ocean City.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, BG was there, prominent.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I needed a Kelly Green. I don't know how much longer Brandon Graham's going to be here, so...
Was he on a boat?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yeah, he was on a boat. Everybody was going
Was
nuts.
he like the marshal of the parade?
Yeah, everybody loved him. Yeah. You saw him waving.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
nice.
BG, Knights of Venice. What you got there, Skeeves? Who's your jersey of choice?
I did get the Jaylen one last year, the Kelly Green. I wore it, and I think I kind of screwed him up a little bit by wearing that jersey. So I'm going to put that back on the shelf for this season. I think, everyone's going to say, Saquon's going to be a big part of this offense, and we're all excited for him. I'm pulling out the A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
I feel like A.J. Brown is going to have a monstrous year. Especially if they can get that that run game going. They're going to be able to get those deep shots down the field, and I think we're going to see a lot of good things come from him.
Yeah, if A.J. Brown wasn't super popular, I'd wear it, but there's too many 11s going to be out there, so I'm going Jake Elliott. Just consistent, man. I like it.
This guy.
A long line of good field goal kickers here, the Akers,
Dude, a lot of kids wore Akers growing up.
That's a big deal. Like, I am not... I'm
that four.
disputing that.
The kicker jersey?
But no, I can't. I could never.
Well, you're a different physique. I mean, you're a guy your stature wearing a kicker's jersey is a little different than someone svelte like me wearing the kicker's jersey.
Right, I'm not talking about that. Like, I'm just talking about the kicker in general.
See, I'm big on the offensive lineman jerseys. That's something super underrated, and I love those jerseys.
Do you?
I have an Elaine Johnson at home.
What
would you wear?
I'm not a big jersey guy, but if I were, I would.
Mailata.
Well, no,
I feel like because it's throwback.
Well, no. If I want to go pick this year,
okay.
I think to me it's Barkley.
Okay,
I think it's a Barkley.
I get it.
I think getting Saquon, I think it's a big deal. I know people, we look at and we devalue running backs, but getting a guy like Saquon Barkley, I think is a monster.
It's generational.
For the next 2 years, I still think he's got.
Do you have any injury concerns at all? I mean, he's banged up 3 of the last 4 years.
You always have injury concerns. In football,
especially at that position.
Always have that. You always have that. But let's just talk about it in generalities. He didn't slow down. He had nothing. He had no O-line. He had no quarterback.
Literally.
There was no, usually you have a guy, your running back works off your passing game, right? He had none of that stuff.
Yeah. You ain't lying.
I just expect him here. I expect him to it's a big deal for him.
I agree.
So, anyway, best and worst of the weekend. What was your best, JP?
Well, you took my best. I was going to talk about the Brandon Graham and Ocean City. I thought it was pretty cool seeing everyone cheering on Brandon Graham. But my worst, my mom, so as you know, today's my last day for 9 days. I'm going to get married in Colombia.
JP getting married.
So, I haven't seen my grandma in 13 years. I've never met my aunt in Canada. And I would figure my mom would want to surprise me with that. She decides to tell me on Saturday morning, hey, we just picked up your grandma and your aunt. Mom, why wouldn't you surprise me with that? That's so, that would
wow.
So cool.
That's beautiful.
I get it, yeah. But I'm happy we were able to see my grandma for the first time in 30
She's coming to the wedding.
She's coming to the wedding from Canada, and my aunt. They both live in Alberta.
Alberta. Wow.
That's a far flight.
Yeah.
What
What brought them to
different.
Where? Near Edmonton?
Yeah. So my aunt actually married a Colombian Canadian back in the 90s. She moved to Canada, and then my grandma visited, and she loves cold weather because it's the craziest thing ever. When my dad was growing up, she wanted to live in Bogota because of the temperatures, but she got Canada instead now.
Wow.
She loves the cold weather.
So you like surprise? You like being surprised? You're a surprise guy?
Yeah, especially something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I am too.
I don't love surprises.
You're one of those
I wouldn't be
people?
surprised with my
I don't
grandma.
love surprises.
What's the matter? You're like,
Surprise.
I got PTSD, bro. Don't surprise me with nothing. I need to know what's happening. I need to have my
you
hand
got
on it.
issues.
Yeah, of course.
Skeeves, best and worst of your weekend.
Best is I went to a really nice dinner on Saturday. It was called the restaurant was called Bloomsday.
Oh, that's in my hood. Thanks for saying hello.
Yeah, it was for my girlfriend's birthday, which
Cool.
is this weekend, but we were celebrated this past weekend as well. Great meal all around, delicious, loved it. Worst of the weekend? Oh man, I don't know. The world, the world, just the world.
Well, every day is crazy. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Best and worst, VG.
I went to the movie Saturday night. I saw Longlegs, but it was nice to see a crowded movie theater on a Saturday night in the city.
Like it.
Yeah, a lot of young people out at the Ritz at the Bourse. Yeah, it was nice.
Awesome,
movie was decent, but it was like festive.
Was it as good as people?
Yeah, I thought it would be more horror movie than thriller, but it's more of a thriller, and just not enough Nick Cage for me. I need him all the time, and he's a scene stealer. I just need him.
He was really good.
Yeah,
in that
he's
movie.
great in it, but just not enough of it.
Didn't you meet an actor this weekend at the window?
No, but Shane Gill as well as at my one watering hole this weekend, Saturday night. He was popped into the New Way with some friends.
Dude, he's like the most popular comedian right now.
Yeah,
I feel like.
Yeah. Worst was the open weather yesterday. It was too nice. The end of the game was just a little breezy. I needed some rain and some like real wind, gale force winds and stuff. Yeah, it was just too nice.
Yeah. I listen. I feel you on that. All right, that time of the day where we talk to the brain.
Brain. Red, the brain finder.
Well, good morning, Brain. How are you, buddy?
Oh, great. I bet
branded
JP's grandmother being at the wedding plus 140. I'm going to cash a huge ticket, man. I'm helping pay for my own wedding because I had utmost confidence, JP, that was going to happen. Getting a press place. I had no choice but to take it. Thank you for confirming she will be there.
He's got a Brad Best Bets hat on today.
Absolutely. Listen, I got to represent.
Nice.
That's a good lid, baby.
I didn't give you props last week. You had the Whalers on Friday.
I had an old time. Yeah, I got that one of the Hockey Hall of Fame old time. Whalers hat.
That is sick.
Yeah, so, Hockey Hall of Fame's cool, huh? I love.
But I do agree on what you said about the weather, you guys, yesterday at the British Open. It ruined the tournament for me.
Yeah,
I didn't like it.
You want to see them scale Mother Nature. Yeah,
exactly. So anyway, but I agree with you on that. I was upset to see that because it looked like it had a chance to be an all-time finish. There's 10 guys within a shot. Everything's setting up. Let's let the elements be horrible and let's let it be but it was just it was a borderline birdie fest. Not my kind of golf.
Yeah. All right, training camp is upon us.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the Eagles and we're talking about the Eagles offense. What's the betting world? How does the betting world look at the Eagles? I had and you're on my Saturday show, Brain. Jason Fitz and I were debating about the Eagles versus the Cowboys. He likes the Cowboys to win the division, which I don't see. So let's take a look at it from a betting standpoint. What do the markets say about the Eagles and the Cowboys in the NFC East?
Well, Anthony, this is going to make you feel a lot better. That has been probably, out of all 8 divisions, probably been the biggest individual move has been pro Philadelphia, anti Dallas of any division. Philadelphia opened plus $1.50. Now Philadelphia is most sites minus 120, and Dallas is getting plus 150. It has been a massive switch, and Dallas's over/under has gone from opened at 10.5. Now it's either 10.5, laying crazy juice 2-1 on the under, or it's down to 9.5.
It's 9.5
and the Eagles
have Parks.
Yeah, there you go. So there's been the betting markets. Plus, there's some concern, Anthony, about Dak Prescott. His foot was in a boot, and is he really injured? Is he not? I've heard some things from people that I think are in the know that maybe it seemed like maybe not so copacetic. But Philadelphia, number one move of any division, Eagles to win the division.
Wow. I wonder. There's a lot of talk about the Eagles because if the Eagles are going to win a division, their offense has to get fixed. That was to me obviously we saw it. The biggest slide was due to the reason for the slide was due to their offense. It was 100%. Almost stunning because even though they may not have been a 10-1 dominant team, they were much better than they were in the playoff game against Tampa, the Giants, the Seahawks, where they had these spells where they couldn't move the ball a lick.
Well, Anthony, it was upsetting when you look at it. You're like, okay, they had the quarterback that was the runner-up for MVP the year before. They had the 2 dominant receivers. They had a really good tight end. They had a running back that played pretty well for them in Swift. They had the top 3 offensive line. You'd say to yourself, that's why, again, I always find sports. I love sports for so many reasons because I love to see how does that happen where you theoretically have the players and it just crumbles apart. It's almost like a band, right? And one of the people's out of sync, it messes everyone up. That's the way I kind of compare it to, because it just seemed that way. And I got to ask you guys a question. Have you guys been watching by any chance Hard Knocks?
Yes. Yes.
Listen. By the way,
how ridiculous the Giants look.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we didn't talk about it. Yeah, and look, the guy seems like a nice man. I judge my life on who's nice, who's not. He seems like a nice, wonderful man who I'd be friends with. But that let me know, if I even had this much doubt that that just quote unquote, let's just call them fans like us four, could do the job that Joe Shane's doing. I mean, on my most drunken day, the most day I woke, I could do what he does, and I'm not. And that's just not even an opinion. That's just, you're seeing what it's always numbers and cap numbers and stuff like that. That's like, that's not hard. And it's like, he's like, oh, what do you think of this guy? Do you think we should go for him now? It was almost, I got to tell you, I know.
I'm surprised they allowed the footage out there.
Made him look so weak.
That kind of footage. They look like amateurs.
Anthony, can you imagine? Again, I always look at like Bill Belichick. What would Belichick or whatever? Like, can you imagine Bill Belichick looking like that in a video? That was. If I was a Giants fan, and by the way, I felt bad for what's his name, the owner. Looked like out of it too, Mara, and I was just like, man, if I saw this on my team, you talk about a lack of direction, a lack of leadership, no plan. It was almost like they just all got together for like a fantasy draft. They're like, all right, should we take this guy? All right,
and you know what you're expressing when you bring up Belichick, or even now Howie, like when you look at Belichick, there's never a question mark at the end of his sentence. It's always done with an exhaustive plan, and whether he's right or wrong. Listen, you look at time during their dynasty. They had losses, right? They had times when their personnel on offense wasn't very good, but there's never a question mark at the end of his sentence. He knows what he wants to do. He has a plan. And he's confident in his plan. Like, so much is that you need to be confident, and that comes from competence, right? Well, confidence is born out of competence, and that's what you don't see out of Joe Shane.
Well, it's funny, Anthony. Like, let's even take what you do. You're one of the best in the world of what you do, because you do have confidence. You do have that structure where there isn't a question on your shows. You have a plan, and the shows go great every day. Like with him, it's like he doesn't have that factor to him, which to me, again, I was stunned. And again, it doesn't have to just be in sports. Again, you've lived your life, and the reason you've been so successful is because you had a plan. You don't just walk into these shows being like, whatever. You know what you want to do. You know what you want to talk about. You know what the fans want to talk about. You have a plan, and you know what you want to do. It doesn't have to just be sports. It could be anything. And when I watched this, I was just like, and again, the guy seems like a nice man. Yeah. And I mean that. But man, I was like, if this was my general manager,
I know
this would be like, that was amateur hour. I just couldn't. I'm glad that you guys saw it the same way.
I'm stunned that they allow that footage to be out there, to be honest with you.
They just look like guys off the street making decisions.
I know.
That's what I'm saying, VJ. It was just like, it was literally like that. It was like, oh, we just found this guy who won a contest to be the Giants general manager for a day. Here we go. What do you think, Saquon?
Fantasy football rooms, like, come on, man.
And how does this guy have such a lack of knowledge? No offense to him. He's like, with Saquon, he's like, do you think he really could leave? Do you think? How does he not know this? Does he have no contact?
And then Mara's going, I'd be broken heart if he went to Philadelphia.
Most popular player.
And meanwhile, you don't give him an offer. Like, wow.
Dude, it was.
What are you nuts? Like, how do you not give him an offer?
You're going to call us back, right? You're going to call us back.
Yeah. You I have your word on this, right? Yeah, guys, sure. I have your word. You'll get back to me, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no problem. Sure. Yeah, we're not going to be
foolhardy. Can you be?
I gotta be honest.
Sense.
I've enjoyed,
and even how they build their team. Like,
there's no plan. This has been my favorite Hard Knocks because of the incompetence. I've actually enjoyed it. No offense to them. Like, I was just like, wow, because I didn't think it could ever look like that. That to me was literally like if you had a bunch of guys that just all were casual sports fans, you got them together in a room, like you had like 5 of your buddies, and you're like, all right, what do you think? All right, we'll do this, we'll do that, and you're not even trying. It was almost, there was no plan. It was just like I don't know. I was stunned. I was stunned. I can't believe they let that get out on the airwaves. And again, like, to me, that was, you want to talk about weak. And you said, you nailed it about Belichick. And whether he's right or wrong on a pick, he at least has a presence and leadership to him.
And there's
where you know that there's a guy there and there's reasoning. Yeah.
Any decision that you make, there needs to be reasoning behind it.
100%.
It doesn't feel like it feels like they're just talking through it.
But are we surprised that
I couldn't believe it.
Are we surprised that not just the Giants, the NFL let this get out? Because it really looks like they have an incompetent organization amongst their groups.
In New York.
Yes. You would think NFL would be like, this cannot get out. This looks ridiculous.
Has it, guys, I have to admit, I haven't been looking at it. Has that been widely panned like the way we're talking about? Other people have been saying that? Okay, all right. Because I haven't read much. I just happened to watch them all this past Saturday. I watched all three in a row. And I was just like, oh my God. I was like, I couldn't stop watching it.
I know.
Because I was like,
no, it was compelling television, but
yeah, it was, man. And he's like, oh, my
not to give people compelling television.
My son, I got a text from my son. He says, I'm doing good. I'm like, oh my God, like, this guy's actually talking. He's like, my son said I'm doing good. That makes me feel good. I'm like, oh my God, man.
I know.
Jesus Christ. I don't know. That was, look, I can't wait for episode 4.
Yeah, I feel you, buddy. All right, what do you got?
Got some stuff.
Anything with the Phillies or MLB? What do you got?
Well, I got a couple things MLB. Listen, Anthony, we talked about Tariq Skubal, the guy's 10-3 with a mid-2 ERA, going against one of my favorite pitchers to go against, Carlos Carrasco, as an ERA over 5. Tigers have won 10 of 13. Guardians have lost, I believe, 8 of 10. I'm laying $1.25 on the Park site with the Tigers. Again, when Tariq Skubal, it's like 1972 Steve Carlton, Anthony. When you have a pitcher like that on the mound, it raises your IQ, and the manager becomes a lot smarter automatically. Line 125, again, I think they win the game closer to 2 out of 3 times. I think that's way too short. Give me Tariq Skubal and the Tigers minus 125. This is a pure math play, Anthony. I think I gave it out in these airwaves before. It didn't win, but you got to be prepared to do it again. Pete Alonso, plus 510 at home run. Going against one of the worst pitchers in baseball, in Yanni Chirinos, plus 510, okay? He's hit a home run, Anthony, in 18 of 79 games, about 20%. And the last 3 years, 97 to 317, 23%. We should be getting around plus 350 here. To be getting plus 510 in an elite matchup against one of the worst, probably the most hittable starting pitcher in all of the sport. This, to me, again, I think is one of my favorite home run bet I've seen of the year. I would have made this closer to 3-1. You want to give me over 5-1 on the Park site? Thank you very much. And Boston Red Sox starter, Anthony pitcher, Tanner Houck, over 17.5 outs. He's 14-5 to that this year. I know it's at Coors Field, but the Rockies just stink, Anthony. I think Tanner Houck gets his,
they're not good. That lineup's not good.
Horrible.
So, yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like it. Anything change when it comes to long-term futures for baseball, especially with, it's like the deadline, that'll have some kind of impact, I think, on the futures. What happens? Any teams rising, falling?
I mean, look, the only kind of team I'd be looking for is maybe trying to take a team that can, as you said, like rise up and be a tough out. A team in the American League that I think has a chance to start playing a little better is Minnesota. I think they're second or third in the league in runs scored, and their pitching is good. They have good pitching. I think that's a team that maybe could rise that right now people aren't eyeballing, and especially if they get Royce Lewis back. Royce Lewis, you talk about they say the best ability is
he's always hurt.
He's always hurt. He can't stay healthy, but this guy can stay healthy. I like that team's offense and pitching very much.
It looks like Buxton's heating up a little bit too.
Yeah, they have good players. Korea's having a really good year. They have a lot of good players, and that's a team odds-wise. Again, obviously, Baltimore, New York, people are going to want to take. I get it. Houston, that's the comfort food. But I would be looking maybe more toward teams like Minnesota, which I think has a chance to be a really tough out once the playoffs start.
I like it. Check him out at Brad's Best Bets on Twitter X. Brain, always great, buddy. Thanks, pal.
You're the best, guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
I like it. All right, coming up, we're going to tell you, and again, the Brain brought to us by the Bet Park Sportsbook Casino app. I love our next guest. He is a local guy, all right, from Norristown, and he runs Nebraska football. So last week we talked about college football. Well, we did a big Penn State thing. The landscape of college football has changed so much as we approach football season. I want to go inside college football and what this world is like. It's insane right now. All these moving parts. Sean Padden on his way back from the shore, ready to go to Lincoln to start the season, start his training camp, is going to join us coming up in studio.
Some great insight. I think he also brought us some treats, cuz.
Oh, really? He always does. He's the best, Sean. So we'll talk to Sean coming up. But first, JP, got some stuff?
Absolutely, guys. All right. You always hear me talk about it, guys. Let's talk about our friends over at Shady Rays, because this summer, guys, not only are we styling and profiling, but we're going to protect our eyeballs, and we're not going to break the bank, which is the best part about it. We're all struggling. We're all tired of paying ridiculous prices for things. And with Shady Rays, we're going to get ourselves something that's going to protect our eyeballs. It's going to look good on us, and we're not going to break the bank. Because Shady Rays, the difference between them and some of the other companies is that you're going to pay for a high-quality product, but you're not going to break the bank doing so. And listen, my favorite feature about Shady Rays, we've all been there, right? We happen to lose or break our sunglasses. What Shady Rays will do for you for that first pair is they will replace it for you. Guys, nobody's doing that. Shady Rays is. And don't take it from me. Take it from over to the 500,000 people that have rated Shady Rays 5 stars or more. So I'm not the only one that's clamoring for Shady Rays. And as always, we have you hooked up with that promo code. Right now, guys, get your pair of Shady Rays today. Use that promo code PHLY for 35% off those polarized sunglasses. Head on over to shadyrays.com and use that promo code. So this upcoming summer, guys, protect those eyeballs and stay silent profiling with our friends over at Shady Rays. And while we're at it, guys, listen, you're going to be outside with these sunglasses, right? You're going to protect your eyeballs with these sunglasses. Well, maybe these sunglasses can protect you at the ballpark. And with the Game Time app, you can go to the ballpark without any stress-free buying, right? It can be stress-free when it comes to buying. The best part about Game Time app is that the savings that everybody is enduring right now, up to 60% people are experiencing with their savings, and it's that phenomenal. Here's what you got to do, guys, all right? First, download the app. It is free. Head on down to the ballpark, right, or to the soccer pitch, wherever it may be this summer, right? We have a bunch of concerts going on right now as well. Do a little tailgate, have a couple, right? And then an hour before the event, go on the app. You can see the seats before you buy, and you will even see all the fees that you'll be paying for before the checkout page. Gone are the days of hitting the checkout page, and here comes $1,000 worth of fees. Game Time is transparent, and they will tell you how much you exactly will be paying right as you hit the checkout page, all right? And, of course, like we talk about, Game Time's awesome buying events. It's going to be stress-free, but we also have the promo code for you this as well. So right now, guys, create an account. Like I said, download that free app, create that account, and then for your first event, use the promo code PHLY. What this will do is it'll get you $20 off your first purchase over at the Game Time app, guys. $20 goes a long way these days, okay? So, guys, if you're heading out to the ballpark, heading out to the concert, keep Game Time in mind, and make sure you guys are using that promo code PHLY. And thank you to our friends over at the Game Time app.
All right, coming up, we're going to talk to Sean Padden, GM, Nebraska Football. But don't forget, BetParks has your seat at the table with live dealer for all your favorite classic casino games right on your phone. Right now, play live baccarat, live roulette, live blackjack with a live dealer, plus hundreds of exciting online slots. That's right, the BetParks Sportsbook Casino app. It's the only sportsbook app I'll ever recommend. Summer's here, right? You're at the beach, you're at the boardwalk, you're at the Poconos, the campground, the lake, your backyard pool, whatever it is, make your downtime fun time. That's right. The BetParks app's a lot of stuff. PGA golf, we're talking about that. You got all your live baseball, whatever you need. You got it, tennis, soccer. It's all right there. Download the BetParks Sportsbook app, casino app. Enjoy it all from your fingertips. New users, if you're down $1,000, you get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down the first 24 hours. You got to check it out. BetParks.com has all the details. Got to be 21 in PA, New Jersey, Maryland, Ohio, Michigan. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. You love to play. You play to win. You bet. BetParks. All right. We've reached the 10 o'clock hour on the program. And I got to tell you, I love our next guest. I'm fascinated. We talk about college football, about the pop football seasons here. Eagles training camp kicks off on Wednesday, the first practice. Veterans, rookies report Tuesday. Football's around the corner. And joining us, He runs the program, the GM of Nebraska football. So fascinating. And he's a local guy, one of our people, Sean Padden, Norristown.
And how are you?
You got the Huskers hat. Look at you.
Ain't no town like no town. How we doing?
We're doing great. We're doing
You gotta
great.
quit saying that I run the program. Like,
Well, listen.
you know who runs the program.
I know. Matt Rhule, our dear friend who we love, runs the program. But come on, you run the roster.
Well, yeah. So
That's a big deal.
the general manager's role in college football isn't really well defined. It goes by, everybody can call things a little bit differently. For us at Nebraska, it's really the roster management, and that's inputs and outputs. That's recruiting wise. That's the potential for transfers, basically all of that, and then it's working with and trying to help facilitate anything that we can with as far as the collective goes. So now in the age of NIL and in the state of Nebraska, we have the opportunity to where now, thanks to Governor Pillen and a change in the state law, we have the ability to work with them and to help kids talk about deals and talk about where they're at. And for me, I try and use that process as a learning curve for when they're coming to the NFL. Here's how you should approach this. Here's how you really talk to them about.
You know what's amazing is it basically is the NFL now, right? Like you actually are dealing with basically contracts, money, payment. Like you have a budget, which might as well be a cap, right? Like,
well, the collective does,
right?
The collective does, and we don't dictate the numbers to them,
right?
But we talk philosophy with it, and we do have a sense of what their overall sort of budget is, or you also need to be, good shepherds of the dollars in terms of, folks are giving to this collective. And a lot of times what they're doing is in return, they're getting charitable work from our players. Our players will in turn then go, they have, different rich folks have different charities and different, projects that they're heavily involved. So our guys, they'll do the fulfillment a lot of times helping out different charitable organizations, but you do have a sense that you have to be smart and you have to be strategic in terms of this. And it's really difficult because not all contracts are the same. Not all universities are operating off the same collective bargaining agreement. So it's really difficult. And the best thing to do, in my opinion, is to just be as transparent with the guys as possible. I had a guy reach out just recently and said, hey, when would be a good time for me to reach out to, the collective and ask about, and I said, well, when did you sign your latest contract? Well, about, 2 weeks ago. I'm like, you signed it already? Like, no, you're supposed to have those conversations ahead of time. And so that's sort of a learning curve sometimes for guys is, here's how you should approach this. Here's how you should approach the collective and make your case. Sometimes there are guys that I'll give information to and be like, hey, listen, tell them this, tell them that. You know what I mean? Like this might help because it's not going to be a direct correlation of us telling them what to do.
Go back real quick. And sorry to interrupt you, but I just want you to go back and explain to people, because this is a completely foreign world. The collective.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Like, explain how that works and whether it's a Penn State, a Nebraska, Ohio State.
So in major college football today, what has emerged in what has happened with NIL through Supreme Court rulings? With this, there was not a rule that was passed that said you can now do NIL. There was a restriction taken away. So that restriction was taken away by the highest court in the land. It was 9-0. It was a shutout. So the response had been, well, now kids can go do TV commercials. They couldn't do those things. Right. They couldn't act in a TV commercial.
They couldn't be on the video game.
Yeah,
that was the whole thing. The name, interest, and likeness.
So that got removed. So in that vacuum, in a lot of places, in most places with major college football, in that vacuum came marketing collectives that then work with teams in a particular market, and they provide NIL money in return for fulfillment obligations. Like I said, appearances here or there, tweets. All people do it all sorts of different ways. A lot of times at Nebraska, the folks that are lucky enough to have more and do donate to it then like to have us reciprocate with helping out their charities and helping out charitable work. So that's how it works there. But every other place does. And these collectives have contracts with these players. There's no standard contract across college football, across anything. So it was really important for us to be allowed to get involved just so that we could talk to guys about what they were entering into and have an open door with them about the contracts. And you want to come talk to us, you can talk to us. You want to talk to Jonathan Bateman, who's sort of our head of compliance / NIL compliance. He's an attorney. Sit down with him, talk about these we're allowed to sort of get in there with them and help them navigate through that.
So you facilitate that stuff.
We're allowed to, yeah. And if a kid has an opportunity for something, one young man who's got an NFL potential came to us, and it was really like a payday loan. We were like, "Well, this isn't good, dude. Like, you're gonna give away like a huge percentage of your earnings for the rest of your life. Like, that's not a good idea." We couldn't get involved in things like that, and now we sort of can. And I knew that it was coming because when I was at Baylor, I knew I knew the court cases that were coming through, and I was like, well, who's going to be advocating for them? Who's on their side? And I don't want college football to be a circumstance where it's PA versus Park Avenue. You know what I mean? Like, like, how can we fix this to where it is one? You know what I mean? It is not this battle, AC/DC, like zero-sum game. Like, that's not the case. Like, it shouldn't be the case, and we shouldn't be approaching it that way.
This is so interesting because it's the Wild West is what you're talking about, because no schools do it the same way, right? Mm-hmm. But if I got a kid, right, who's a stud, I'm a stud recruit, right, and I can go anywhere I want, and obviously I'm looking for the biggest payday coming out of high school. Right, I mean, that's going to be my thing. It's like, all right,
depends on the guy,
right? But if you're a stud recruit and you can go anywhere you want, it's going to be about the money. Now, part of it's going to be, the coach. Like, how am I going to be able to improve my game and get NFL ready and the whole nine? But the other piece of it is, I can get hurt tomorrow. I want to get paid.
No doubt.
So how does that work? Like, how do you go into it competing with other schools? And the money, right? Like,
the significant change that happened in terms of, and this is just, I'm talking how collectives can operate, was there was the state of Virginia, and I believe, I can't remember the other state, but basically they sued the NCAA, and there was a Florida State coach that they said, it was. Basically, there was a court ruling that came down that said collectives are now allowed to say, this is what we will pay you. This is what you can anticipate from us. Before that, they weren't even allowed to have that conversation, which was definitely happening. I don't know for sure, but it was definitely happening.
Know it was. Yeah.
How are you not going to, and so basically they said, you are limiting that student athlete's ability to go find out, hey, what is out there and what is out there. And no, I don't think every kid is going after it, and the super studs are not going after exactly, because there's more to it than money. And it was Coach Belichick that said to us, when I asked him, I said, how do you get somebody to go for less? You know what I mean? You've done that for years. You maintained a roster there and sustained something for a very long time with veterans taking less. I said, how'd you do it? He said, you stand on the work you've already put into them and the development you've already put into them. And I thought, well, hell, that's all we do. I mean, that's what gets us up every day. So I thought that was really an interesting point. And I think that Coach Hurley, right there on the court after he won the latest national championship, they asked him. And basically he said it's about guys that have NBA talent, but it's not all about themselves. And they want to be about something bigger than themselves. So I think if you have a roster that has that attitude permeating it up and down, this ain't the Wild West. Like, we'll figure it out. We're all men. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's you got to have a good roster and a good mentality and a good culture. I'm hoping that the latest trend in college football is that you really got to care about them. You really got to care. You really got to pour into them. You can't be at a place where as soon as the recruit goes away with somebody else, they say, hey, man, I know they say all this, but what's it really like here? Do they really care about you here? And the kiss of death is if you go somewhere and they're like, hey, man, they love you until they recruit you, and then you get here and they don't really care about you. Like that gets around. And hopefully I'm hoping that we're a difference maker when it comes to that's not how we've ever operated.
Well, I'm curious a couple of things. One, it's so interesting because we don't know, the public doesn't know so much of the layers of it. It's such a big deal. The game just came out, right? College football 25.
Yeah, how about that?
I was playing with Nebraska, Penn State, Nebraska, and I got schooled, right? Andrew beat me. Singleton ran and took it to the house. Maddie's upset that I didn't call the right defense. All kidding aside.
Yeah.
How does the portal work in this situation? So if I'm a kid that commits to you, right, and we do this deal, am I allowed to go into the portal, or am I restricted?
Oh no, sure. You can go into the portal. When I think if you sign a national letter of intent, I think there's a certain period of time before you can't go into the portal. It might be in your first semester, but for the most part, you can enter the portal whenever you wish. That's sort of completely up to you. If it's in the middle of the semester, then the school is obligated to honor that scholarship through the end of the semester. If it's in the summertime or when you're not in school, then the school can say, we're no longer going to honor your scholarship. You've gone into the portal, and best of luck to you. So what
happens to the deal? So the deal just ends the minute they go in the portal? Then the deal that you struck will just end?
Here's a great...
that almost seems unfair.
Well, here's a great conversation that I was
to the school
I was privy to. I think one of the biggest problems is tampering. I think that a kid is fine. He's developing. He's going down the right path. You can show him parallels of this is where so and so was here. He's in all this. This is what you're on your way. And then all of a sudden they're just getting phone calls from other places and other things that say, no, man, your time is now. You should be, your time is now. You should get paid. And they're trying to induce kids to make a bad decision. Whereas if they wanted to go into the portal, they could choose to go wherever the heck they want.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. Do you have to court donors? Is part of your job having relationships with Nebraska donors that open up NIL?
Yeah,
deals?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that as NIL shifts, and this is such a deep, dense conversation, but as NIL shifts, if this house settlement works the way it does, and there'll be questions about percentages and Title IX's role in dictating those percentages and the contract themselves, revenue. So there's all of that needs to be worked out, and eventually it'll probably be fought out in the courts, to be honest with you. But the what is shifting now in terms of there'll be revenue sharing, and this percentage of the revenue will go towards the players, and that'll be your guys to distribute at your discretion. And schools can max it out, or schools can choose to barely participate in it. I have a hunch that Nebraska will max it out as best we can. But what is happening in terms of, for us, we got to play the ball where it lies. So what we think is going to happen is that now collectives are going to go towards what you initially would have thought NIL was about. Real contracts, real deals. Not that those aren't real deals that these guys are doing now. It's just an environment allows that. They're saying that the house settlement will somehow not allow that they'll say there has to be more market-based value to your appearances, and as opposed to saying this is what you're going to get and here's some appearances. It'll be more material NIL type opportunities. So we've added staff. They have added staff over there, a director of revenue to just find other ways to drum up revenue that will be allowable to be a cherry on top of the revenue that can be shared. So you have the university dollars, the revenue can be shared, and then you can have NIL dollars above just a collective type contract for some appearances. But if you can really pump up the machine in terms of appearances, autograph sessions, then that's all above the cap. If your NIL machine is really working well and you've got good revenue coming in from other streams, then you've got money above the cap. That's how we see it right now. That's how, or at least that's how we're preparing, and that's how we're shifting our NIL mechanism towards that to really find, because I think it's great. I think that if I have a tailgate, right? If I have a tailgate, and I've been throwing a tailgate for years, why not have one of the men's basketball players stop by and say hello and whatever? Those little for $200, $250. I don't know what the market is, but those little transactions never started. They never started. Everybody rushed to the collective.
Right.
And I think as a university, as a community, I think, and Nebraska does this very well, is embracing their student athletes, then they should be embracing them in the marketplace as well.
Your career path is so fascinating, right? Because if you just look at the college piece of it, at Temple, you're at Temple with Matt, and you guys build this, downtrodden program into, like, we had our 15 minutes. I mean, it was special.
Game day was here.
I mean, it was unbelievable, right? Like
the foundation, downtrodden, all that. I want to be. The foundation was really placed by Coach Golden.
Yes.
In terms of the roadmap, I should probably say the roadmap more so than the foundation, but the roadmap of here's how you win at Temple, and it took time, and they slowly had to build. And then Matt was just the right guy at the right time, who understood everything that Temple had been through to get to that point. You know what I mean? They were down, when they took over under Coach Golden. That was a downtrodden program. I would say that the roadmap, though, was laid out pretty good. But, the conferences changed, and now we're playing all new teams. And Coach Golden, there was the MAC years, and now so it was. I would say it wasn't. I think that the roadmap was there, but then when we came in, they had a sort of up and down. Any transition will have a little bit of a crater. So they had a transition with Coach Adazio. Coach Adazio then left and went to Boston College, I think after 2 seasons. Matt had just been there, knew that roster, knew those guys, and knew the blueprint.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, this is because our first year, we really took it on the chin, and it was really hard. And I remember Matt saying to me, someday in the front of this room is going to be Tyler Matakevich, and is going to be Matt Ioannidis, is going to be, it was the corner from Baltimore. I loved him. I can't remember his name, but he's like, Tavon. He's like, these guys will be in the front of the room, and we're not going to have to do all of this, because it's difficult on an upperclassman, any transition. It's difficult on seniors. You know what I mean? They've come in, they've been under somebody else. At the time, they'd been under 2 different people. And so it's really difficult to get, for seniors to adjust, because they haven't come through it all, and everything is new. A lot of the things are new. So there's always sort of that crater early on. And I'm hoping that at Nebraska, we don't have that crater. Now we finished roughly this. We finished the same, but God, what a great group of seniors.
But let me ask you a question. Go back to Temple.
Yeah.
Is the new landscape of college football just make football at Temple unattainable?
No,
just can't.
No, absolutely not. Not in any sense of the word. There will be a stratification that, frankly, has always been there in terms of who the big boys are and who are, going to be, but there's people that have thought they've been in the fight for years that haven't been in the fight. Just take a look at who's been in, the upper echelon. Take a look at the,
right.
There's really been this that has been happening. It's just, and it's been happening within conferences sometimes. And so that's why you see instability sometimes in some of these conferences as it's going or as it has been in the last couple of years. But no, I think that, are they going to fight for the heavyweight championship of the world? No, they're not going to. But I think in the American Athletic Conference, they're not looking around the American Athletic Conference and see somebody's flush. You know what I mean? Like somebody's really flush with dollars. And, that's not going to be the case. Temple should always be a developmental program. And will they lose some people to the portal? Possibly. I think so. I think back and I wonder, gosh, would we have held on to Deion Dawkins? You know what I mean? Would we have... and you might not, but everyone else is playing off the same, and everybody's playing off the same sheet of music. And so I think the American Athletic Conference is a good fit.
So you see it when it all shakes out, and it's going to shake out at some point, whether it's two super conferences like an AFC and an NFC, like the NFL and the SEC and the Big Ten, at some point you're going to have those two super conferences, and then you'll have a secondary tier, right? And that's where the Temples and the rest of that conference and the lower ranking, like, you look at, I don't know, Vanderbilts and the lower end SECs and the Pac-12s that don't even exist anymore. At some point, they'll be in the bottom tier or that next iteration.
It's really difficult to say because you talk about all of this and you talk about traditional, but you talk about this house settlement. We're talking about $20 million a year, and then that means that you're going to have to carve off for revenue sharing. Who has that on their books? Who has that on their books to be able to handle that? And if you've not been a good shepherd of the dollars to this point, and now you've got this big crater coming down the road, I mean, the table stakes have gotten a lot higher, and I think there are some universities that are going to have some soul searching to do when it comes to that. And it isn't necessarily that revenue sharing is bad. I completely disagree. I love every second of it. But maybe some universities didn't plan all that well or see it coming down the road. Go Big Red, we did.
All right, sit tight because VG and I, you're so interesting, Sean. You're one of us, right? And you've made it to this pantheon. I mean, look, Nebraska football.
Like one of his dream jobs you have.
Like, really cool.
Yeah.
It's just I love college football and I love football, period. And like, this is we're entering such an interesting time when it comes to the sport, the expanded playoff, right? Like, looking at rosters almost like NFL-like. It's fascinating. Sit tight. I do want to tell you about Parks Casino, Street Road, Bend, Salem. We talk all the time about the Bet Park Sportsbook app. You got to get to know the casino, right? Because the casino is a blast. The Excite Center at Parks Casino, state-of-the-art venue inside Parks Casino in Bucks County, right here in the Philadelphia suburbs. An incredible place to see a show. Tickets on sale now for incredible headliners. Debbie Gibson, August 25th, the Marshall Tucker Band. September 7th, Australian Pink Floyd. September 14th, J.B. Smoove from Curb Your Enthusiasm. Incredible stuff. The Best of the Eagles, Tribute Act, country star Dustin Lynch, Tiffany Haddish, The Fray, the Juicy Scoop podcast with Heather McDonald, Kev Herrera, funny man, who's an incredible comedian. Acapella Sounds of Straight No Chaser. ParksCasino.com to buy tickets for all the shows. Great award-winning restaurants. All right, it's always fun. The Joe Conklin comedy acts every week at Parks Casino. The happy hours are amazing. You got to be 21. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Parks Casino, Street Road, Bend, Salem. Sean Padden with us, who is Norristown native, who has just made it to the pantheon of college football. No, it's true. I mean, not for nothing, dude. I mean,
no, it's
your career path fascinating.
My first job in football was a student assistant at Catholic. I played 3 years. Scout team senior was a little bit of a dubious distinction, so I moved over to being a student assistant. But my first, paying job barely was Albright College, red, white, and black. And I meet this guy, Matt Rhule, who's the linebackers coach. I'm the D-line, and Jeff Collins, who's the DC at UNC.
Jeff at North Carolina.
Yeah, he's the DC at UNC. Yeah. So, us along with Eddie Baker, Jason Eberts, Sean Hill, like we were, or Sean Jones rather, but they were red and white, and we had a Blackshirts defense. So we gave out at Nebraska. The Blackshirts is a tradition that goes back almost as long as the team itself, where the starting defense out at practice, 11 jerseys get distributed, and you're the black shirt defense, and it's an honor. And if you get beaten out, you lose your black shirt. And so we did the same thing at Albright, and I mean, we were. A kid would walk down Tuesday morning and there's your white jersey, my friend. You did not earn the black jersey. And, the position coach would have a conversation, but we sort of tried to replicate this when we were at Albright, and it was really successful. And the guys, we had some really good defenses. And so to go to Nebraska, where we just sort of we cosplayed the Nebraska Cornhuskers for a couple of years, and now we're really doing it, and it was just surreal at times. There's a display for the Blackshirts that every once in a while I walk by it and just but now it's more fun to be working with our scout team and antagonizing the Blackshirts and really trying to get the most out of those guys out of practice, because I was a scout teamer, and I think the scout teamer is invaluable to preparation. So now I'm just trying to mess with the Blackshirts. You know what I mean?
Not just a scout teamer. You're a scout teamer player of the year, according to your bio here.
That is true.
You excel on that scout team.
I was a junior. I was a 21-year-old scout. No, but it was funny. My freshman year, we were 1-9. My sophomore year, we were 8-2. I did not play as we got better. I did not play as we got better, but I started on special teams and kickoff return when I was a freshman. But the better we got, it seemed the less I played. So
you do not cosplay your beard, though. Your beard game is so strong. As a guy with some facial hair, I respect the heck out of your beard game. Has that helped you in the transition to Lincoln, like give you some street cred with the lumberjack vibe, being like a city slicker from Norristown area?
We're the Great Plains. These are the Great Plains. So these are farmers, and so I don't know whether or not the beard correlated as well. But I've been growing a beard since Jimmy Rollins said we're the team to beat.
That's awesome.
I have been growing a beard since then because it's always been a playoff beard. Every once in a while, like when I get skinny, every once in a while I'll try and show off and shave the beard a little bit, and then I just get fat again. And I'm like, the beard's got to come back. But I've been growing it ever since J-Roll said we're the team to beat. I said playoff beard. That was 2007. We had done nothing. And he said, we're the team to beat.
It's a strong beard game.
I love it.
But what's it like going to Lincoln? Is it a culture shock for someone from this area?
No, Lincoln's a good town. Lincoln is a legit town. And for me, anybody that knows me, I love live music. I have like 5 live music venues like within a block of me where I live. Like it is a robust sort of downtown. Now, if Philly is your comparator, it's not. Right. But if Waco is your comparator, there's more to do there. And Omaha's 40 miles away or whatever it might be. So that metro is a million metro area right there as well. So it's very metropolitan, kind of where I am at. As you go outside, though, then that's when you get to the heart and soul of Nebraska, which is these little towns and farms and agribusiness. But the Lincoln metro area and the Omaha metro area is great. I love them.
Well, so it's interesting. You go from Temple, and then you guys go to Baylor, and I'll never forget talking to Matt, because it was Matt had his choice of jobs. He could have went to Oregon, right, or go to Baylor. And you guys go to Baylor, and it's Art Briles and all the just heinous stuff that happened during the Art Briles regime. Now you go in, but they were successful. Like they had won, right? You now go in, and you're the Northeasterners, right? Like that had to be the ultimate culture shock, because you're going to the Bible Belt as Philly, New York, like that kind of.
Well, there are two things that there's 2 points to that. First of all, was from a recruiting standpoint, that if it wasn't for the Texas high school coaches that came on board with us early on, and if it wasn't for the Texas high school coaches embracing, on the whole, embracing how we were going to do things, we wouldn't have had success. The second thing is, and we talked earlier about this in terms of seniors and how difficult it can be turnover. Those guys had won a lot. At Nebraska, they've been haven't quite gotten over the hump.
Is like
and the pressure to win there. The pressure to win there is they put more on themselves than you could ever do everything. But at Baylor, they had won. So it took some convincing to do things the way that Coach Rhule and the way we do things. It took some convincing, and it took some belief without evidence. But eventually we did. But it was those players had won. They had won. So it was a very difficult hearts and minds type of transition.
Were you for Baylor or Oregon?
No comment. No, I would never, and I didn't mean to disparage Waco itself, because Baylor is a wonderful place. I was a single guy living in, Waco.
I mean, listen.
Next thing I know, I'm in a cul-de-sac. I'm like, how the hell did I end up in a cul-de-sac with a garage? And I'm like, it's because there wasn't anything really downtown at the time that I could. But anyway,
that makes.
I also, at the time, I thought Oregon. I wanted Oregon because I was being a wimp in terms of taking over for what had transpired prior to that. And knowing the environment that I went into was still a shooting gallery in terms of who did the right thing and who didn't do the right thing. And so it was very, very difficult to navigate. But Mac Rhodes was such a superior person in terms of how he attacked his vision for the athletic department. And you can see it now as you look at Baylor and see where they're at, holistically. He did a magnificent job of stabilizing that place and then growing it. And now that they've got new facilities going in basketball and football going and everything like that, I would not trade the opportunity to have seen and learned from Mac Rhodes and Jeremiah Dickey, who was our deputy and is now the AD at Boise State. I voted for Oregon at the time, but that was because I'm a wimp and I wanted the easier path. And Matt always pushes us into the harder path.
He's an amazing figure. I want to talk about Matt for a second. He's so interesting. He's such a great football coach, and it's a shame. I thought he got the raw deal when it came to Carolina, and I always think this is the untold story. Forget about the owner and what kind of hands-on guy he is, and when you're that wealthy, it's kind of hard you distort reality. But Matt having to go during COVID, getting that job during that period, and not being able to do normal practices, like the whole world changed, shut down on a dime, and now you're forced to do this job with COVID restrictions. That had to be impossible.
We had at first OTAs and all of that. We had no offseason. That was straight virtual, and it was virtual also because it affected a lot of things because, and I might not get this exactly right, but in terms of Cam, we came in and Cam had a broken foot, or had an injury that he was coming back from, and we weren't exactly sure where that was at, and there was roster decisions that had to be made, and all of a sudden you couldn't, so there was immediate things that got impacted at that time, not having an off season. Where they came in and just got a chance to meet us.
Yeah.
Instead, it was, Microsoft Teams, and I've got a channel for running backs. I've got a channel for this, a channel for that, a channel for nutrition. And so these guys, and we had to basically buy all new iPads, set them up through, macro management to where we, the right environment, send it to them. They've got Teams on here, and they've got Microsoft Notes, and they've got Catapult on there so they can watch video, and so making sure that all of that stuff, or Exos rather, so they can video. And so it was madness prepping and just getting it out the door. And I remember I told our team, because everybody's in gloved up and everything is, and we're in the office just taking, all right, you log into this and and we had to go through the whole, 120 at that point with coaches and everything, getting everybody's iPad. It was madness. And then you get guys and the way an NFL roster flows in and out, people were coming in. And so you just say, hey, go to this folder and watch these videos.
So you're telling Christian McCaffrey, hey, you got to go to this folder to, how crazy is that?
All of a sudden, everybody's on a Teams call. It's a 130-person Teams call that you're on. But everybody was, I don't ever let anybody tell you that working with NFL guys are difficult. Don't ever, they are such pros.
Yeah.
You get a handful of guys, hey, your dog is barking, turn it off.
Right.
But they got to that environment really quickly, and they got it really well. And it's because you know what the NFL stands for. So everybody was saying, okay, this is the new environment. Fine. What's next? How can I do it best? And so they were great with it, but it was madness. And then coming in, once they came in July, you get a 47-page memo from the league 3 hours before everybody arrives saying, this is how we're going to do it. Now, there was a lot of memos that came before that in terms of what the building should look like, and Eddie Levins, who really did everything for the franchise itself, the entire organization. But I was really focused on the team itself. But here, these tracers that they have to wear and all of these protocols sort of came down. And that whole first year was for me, I looked at so little football. I was just COVID coordinator. Very, very little did I get into any of the football or the game management or any of those things. Now, we had other folks, thankfully, to do it, but I was a COVID dude for a good portion of my time there.
I know, it sounds horrible. Like, and you're worried about testing, right? Like, and then who's available for a game? VG. Imagine that. Like, you're sitting there and you're worried about, like, am I going to have my starting running back, my quarterback?
I'll give you a theoretical, okay? This is a theoretical. But so after the Ravens, I think it was the Ravens, had a little bit of an outbreak there. And the NFL said, we need to see the cameras around the facility because we're going to make sure you guys are following the protocols. And they ended up getting punished for it because they weren't, especially around certain areas and everything like that. So it's difficult. Everybody knows how difficult that time was.
God, yeah.
So we're trying to function within these rules, and we have these bracelets on that are recording. Like you and I would be bleeping together, and you and I would be beeping together. You two might be all right, but for the most part, if we spent more than 15 minutes together and you popped, you and I would have to test back into the building for, I believe it was 2 days at the time. But if you had that interaction for that period of time. So imagine this, you're looking at your quarterback's room and you're like, oh my gosh, if Teddy goes down and so-and-so goes, and all of a sudden you've got a room that you're like, oh my gosh, we might lose a quarterback. We might lose the quarterback's room just by this. So when the Ravens go down, you would imagine an owner, that's very involved, calling somebody up and saying, I'm going to blame you if we have ourselves an outbreak or these protocols aren't being followed properly.
Oh, my God.
So I was a madman around the building. I was a madman around the building. 6 feet, the offensive line at one point had a mock protest against me. I walked into the room, and one of the offensive tackles looked at me, looked at the center, and they both took their masks off and just started whirling them in the air. And I just shook my hand. I said, "It's your PA, guys. I'm leaving," and just walked out of the room. But you had to do that. I mean, this is no one wants to hear about my time at Carolina, but that was what you had to inherit it.
Listen.
That was what you had. That's you had to play the ball where it lies. How about a global pandemic? Let's go to it. And that was a good part of that first year. It was just completely that season was just coupled and completely overshadowed by COVID.
Yeah. And then it lingered on into the next all season. And then it's a shame because you got, and I saw this with Steve Spagnuolo. Like if you just go to a spot and it's just something not right, or in this case, like trying to rebuild a team like that, and with the circumstances, or you go to a spot that's a team that's got 1 foot out the door ready to leave, it's hard to recover from that. And that's why I always felt bad, because I'm like, I love that draft. Like your first draft, I loved it. Like you got some Jeremy Chin, you got some really good talent out of that draft, and it just solidifies the importance of the quarterback. Like if you look at the quarterback, you're just screwed in that league.
I think in any football,
yeah.
There's no position that it's not a starting pitcher. A starting pitcher can, but he's only doing it every 5th day, and so there's no position that can really make such a big difference and make you jump. 1-9 my freshman year, we went 8-2. Why? Because we had a freshman quarterback come in and lit the world up.
Yes.
So that there's, but anyway, that position is so, especially the way the game is played at this point right now, and especially the rules of engagement. The quarterback is everything, and this is the greatest thing. It's so hard to be good at quarterback. That's why there is only a few guys in the NFL that can do it. It's not that people aren't trying. It's not that it doesn't matter to people. They're trying their entire lives to be good at that position. And an army of people behind them have elevated to them. And some guys still because it's that hard. It's that difficult. And you must be that good at that many things. Otherwise, you'll get exposed by this league. and any level. You know what I mean? As you go and have parity.
No, I mean,
everything.
look at the career arc of Jaylen Hurts is so fascinating, right? Both at Alabama, right, and then of course, he has to leave, right? Like he gets beat out, right? Then you have success, and then you come back, and now you're the Eagles, and you go. He was drafted during that period of time when you're in Carolina, and then you're behind Wentz, this franchise quarterback. Then you're thrust into it. You have success. You go to Super Bowl, play a historic game, and then you have a bad second half, and now there's all kinds of questions. The whole career arc is crazy.
So we had a series of slugfests with Oklahoma when I was at Baylor. We played them twice.
Yeah, with Jaylen.
And the first time we played them at home, and we got out to a big lead. And they just slowly, methodically, we sort of made them do it. You know what I mean? So you're going to have to earn this. And he just did. He just slowly chipped away at us, And they had a dynamite group of receivers, a really good offensive line.
Yeah, he was at Oklahoma,
but they were like, can you run the ball and get back into this game? And so it was, and they just chipped away at us. And then we played him again in the conference championship game, and we had injuries, and we were down to our third quarterback. So it was us that was gunslinging and battling back in, but we lost both of them, and it was really difficult. But you talk about the guy's resilience. I don't have any doubts about that man's resilience. So I think Eagles fans should expect good things out of Jaylen Hurts. He's been counted out more times than you could imagine, and has come back on the biggest stage and been successful.
Did you grow up an Eagles fan?
Oh, no.
No.
Oh my gosh.
Listen, it was going to come out at some point.
Are you serious? I didn't know this. You and I have been friends for a long time. I didn't even know.
What made you ask this question?
I don't know. I just figured I wanted to take it from the beginning.
Run from it. I'm not going to run from it.
Don't tell me. Please don't tell me.
It's not the Cowboys.
Okay,
what do I look like?
I want to make sure.
I'm a Giants fan. Or was a Giants fan. I was a Giants fan. All right, let me explain.
All right, tell us.
Okay, I was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Right.
And moved to Philadelphia, or moved to Norristown when I was 5 years old. So I had an NFL lunchbox. Like NFL was everything to me. And Joe Morris, being a little guy, little running back, spoke to me. Like Joe Morris was like, he meant, as to be a little guy in this game, it meant a lot to me. And so I sort of fell for Joe Morris. And then LT, and then that defense. But the thing was probably the most fun time, one of the most fun times being an Eagles fan.
I know.
As that defense got so ridiculous under Buddy and Randall Cunningham and those receivers. And I just was so stubborn. You know what I mean? I wasn't going to flip. I was so stubborn.
Wow.
And we just kept winning Super Bowls.
No.
But since then, but here's a great story. So I'm at Albany. I'm the
Giants trained at Albany.
I think I was first year I was a D-line coach. Second year I was a receivers coach. I can't remember which year. But Fossil is Giants training camp. So our spaces intertwine. And we used to be able to sit in on meetings like Denny Morrison, the D-line coach. I would go watch him meet, and they were great meetings, and just sort of hear how he's communicating to these unbelievable football players. And so they're doing a punt meeting. It's first night of punt install. So I come out of my office, and there's like a studio, big studio with mirrors, and that was what they used for a team room. Well, my office is, in order for me to leave, I had to cut through that space. They're in our space. So I cut through it, and I sit in the back of the room, and I'm like, I'm going to watch the first day of punt install. Fossil's sitting in the back of the room, and I see him. He kind of leans over to one of the players. The player gets up, comes over to me, and says, "This is a closed meeting. You have to leave." And that's when I stopped loving the New York Giants.
Fossil kicked you out.
Kicked me out.
He's low-key wearing Giants colors in here right now. I thought he was patriotic, but that's a Giants shirt.
America, first of all.
Secret Giants shirt.
Not badmouth America in here.
Well, it's interesting, though, because you deal with a lot of the NFL people, obviously.
Yeah.
The scouts coming through and the whole thing. And
well, anyone ask me, I am an Eagles fan at this point.
Yeah.
Like, I root for the Eagles to do well for the health and safety and well-being of my friends and family. Like, my family are not Giants fans. Like, I was just a Giants fan because I was a little jerk as a kid. You know what I mean? And I love Joe Morris. But I don't, I'm like, you don't really have an NFL team. I have I want the Eagles to do well.
Right.
Because I want Philadelphia to do well.
Right.
You know what I mean? But you have guys on teams, and Matakevich, is on the Bills.
Right.
But then he leaves, and now he's back on the Steelers, and you just want him to do well. But I still like the Bills because they got Dox there and Terrell Bernard. Yeah. So it's difficult to be a particular
now you're
fan
rooting
of
for
an NFL
people.
team.
I mean, when you're
difficult.
inside, it's different.
Yeah.
It's completely different when you're inside.
But the Eagles have been nothing but good to us over the years. You know what I mean? And being at Temple, and then Matt and Howie, and
I know they're close. I know that
But just from a professional standpoint, they've been nothing but generous with us, ever since the Eagles days, or ever since the Temple days.
So what's your schedule now? So, it's on. We're talking Eagles Wednesday, first practice. What's your guys?
So I leave tomorrow morning and fly back to Lincoln. And I believe the vets, everybody's coming in on the 30th, and I think we start the 31st.
Wow.
Yeah. But we'll start meeting as a staff on the 27th. I'll go back and Wednesday morning, I'll start putting together everything that I need in order to get prepared for the season. And we'll also have a recruiting event coming up on the 27th. So we'll go back in, guns a-blazing, ready to go. And let's do it.
What's the temperature? Year 2, right? You talked about it before. Nebraska, a one-time incredible program. Huskers, right? Iconic. The Doctor, right, was your coach for a long time.
Yeah.
Right? And you had these, it was the Big 8. It was then the Big 12, but it was the Big 8. It was like a big deal. What's it been like? How are they chasing that glory? That's something that's it's got to be interesting for you guys.
It is interesting. There's so many kids on the team that have so many ties to, the state. It typifies the state of Nebraska. The entire state feels that their heartbeat is that football team or those athletic teams. You know what I mean? Those teams. It is. And everyone says, there's nothing there. No, there's something there. There's damn Cornhuskers are there. And there's 20,000 people at a basketball game, win, lose, or draw. They're there supporting that team. And so at times you sort of feel the pressure that the kids feel. That's more than anything else. What kind of pressure do you guys have? Well, you're not going to put any more pressure on ourselves than we do ourselves. I'm my own worst critic. And so we're always going to be pushing ourselves. But you see the pressure on the kids, and you want to make sure that they're handling it the right way and that they're attacking the challenges the right way and dealing with the pressure the right way. And so you put support people in place to sort of do all that. So from the team's perspective, that's really all that I care about in terms of how is this impacting them? How is this impacting them? Externally, outside the bubble, I don't really read a whole lot. So, what do you have to do this year? How many? I don't know. I know what in my mind, we got to improve and improve a lot from a win-loss perspective. And so that's where we go.
Explain real quick to VG and the audience what it's like game day, because it becomes the second largest city, Lincoln does, the stadium in Nebraska, in a sea of red. First time I was there, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
It's really neat. The stadium is right in the middle of campus. The campus is right in the middle of the city, right in the middle of that downtown area. And there's tons of bars and restaurants around there. So it's a hybrid tailgate experience. You know what I mean? There's some places where it's just pop the trunk, cornhole, let's get after it right here and now. There's live music at other places. There's big bars with big screens and outdoor areas. And so there's a whole bunch of different things to do there in terms of pregame. And the game day atmosphere, the place is full for warm-ups. We're out there warming up. We're not kicking off for 40 minutes, and the place is pretty much full. And they're raring and ready to go. And it's just the people are just so supportive. And I guess because we are the only thing that they got to stay with us. You know what I mean? They have to stay with us. But in the same regard, we're so grateful for how loyal these fans are, and they deserve our very best. And so sometimes the pressure that the players feel. Sometimes I feel that too, because I want the players to win so bad, and I want them to have the success, and I want them to be able to validate to the people around them that have been putting this pressure on them, and show them results, because they've been doing everything that they can, and I want to see that. That's what drives me, and that's where the pressure, I see it.
Do you feel a sense of optimism with you guys there?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We are very excited about this season.
They got a good quarterback. Good young.
We've 3 really good young quarterbacks. 4. I mean, 5, you have to have a good quarterback room, and I think our quarterback room is terrific, amazing.
Raiola
not just from this individual and that individual, but I'm saying as a collective, the way they push each other, the way they've been professional with each other this whole time. Each brings something different to the table. We'll see. Yeah, Dylan started in the spring game. We'll see who emerges as the overall starter.
Spoken like a coach. Spoken like a coach.
What do you want from me? I'm not here to make headlines today. I didn't come here to make headlines.
No.
I came here to get some federal donuts.
That's right. I respect that. No, it's so. That kid looks really good. I'm following him. So
I'd say because we're not really a college town for sports here. I mean, we are with college basketball, but it's not as big with the NIL. If I go to Lincoln just to say hello to you, will I see TV commercials for car dealerships with Nebraska players?
Some, yeah. You'll see some. There's a great HVAC commercial with one of our defensive tackles.
Oh, that's awesome.
The polar bear, as they call him.
Okay.
But yeah, you'll see that. You'll see a little bit of it.
And are those donors, are they vocal about the way the team's going?
Well, everybody's vocal. Everybody has a voice.
But they don't feel like they're more entitled to a bigger say because they're giving these players $100,000 to do these commercials.
No, you don't feel any of that.
Okay.
You don't feel any of that or hear any of that. Everybody has been just pure Husker supporters.
Yep.
And the noise is the noise. There's a lot of junk food out there, and you don't have to consume it all.
No, without a doubt. This year's just going to be so interesting because the playoff, man.
Can you imagine? I mean,
it's going to be, and you could have
hosting a home playoff game. Now, I'm not going to. I'll just say across the board, like Lincoln State College, because you guys can appreciate that. Like what a home playoff game would look like.
Oh my God!
Like in certain aspects, the college football game is better than it's ever been. And
I agree.
And I know that everybody.
When we were kids, all we talked about was playoff. And they finally did it. We finally saw it.
But I think that everybody. I think this is the way this is going to shake out. I'm hoping that we get all of this collective bargaining figured out. Collective bargaining, the revenue sharing, and then we come to a place where it's going to take an active Congress, God bless us, but there's going to be some things that need to be put into place in order to stabilize the whole thing. But can you imagine if you just have this stretch in your life where you get to play college football? You know what I mean? It's kind of like the Olympics, and that you have this window of time where you can do this, and you go in as a cohort, and together you guys go and accomplish this over this short period of time, and then it's gone. And during that time, yes, you are going to make money, and I think that'll normalize. People will get used to that. But in the end, it's just this great window of opportunity for an athlete to go achieve this, but it's over when it's over. You know what I mean? You rarely ever put the shoulder pads back on once it's done. No. There's no pickup 11 on 11.
No pickup hoop.
You know what I mean? There's no softball league for this.
No. Listen, Sean, incredible stuff. Sean Padden, really loved it, man. Proud of you.
This is great.
Philadelphia
by the way,
guy.
I love all this. I love the energy of you guys here. I love the energy of this space. I'm excited for you guys.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate that. VG's Nugs will return tomorrow. Everybody, thanks for hanging as always. It's a big week, right? Training camp begins. Football begins. So a lot of good stuff. Make sure all Eagles, check us all out. A lot of stuff we're working on. Written allphly.com and all the shows that will hit today. So have a great day. We love you guys. Be careful, and we'll see you in the morning.
We all silly like the mayor.